Hello, welcome to So Darn Fun. I'm Carrie, and this is a channel that focuses on quality clothing alterations, unbiased pattern reviews, and useful sewing how-tos. I'm really excited because I get to review a pattern today, the Glissando pattern from Love Notions. It's a skirt pant pattern, and this time I'm going to do something different. I'm going to score it in 5 different categories, and at the very end I'm going to give it a So Darn Fun score. So we'll see how this one adds up. As any seasoned seamstress would tell you, before you embark on a new garment, it is a wise idea to make a muslin. You're going to want to know the areas that need any kind of alterations before you take it to your actual fabric. So we're going to start off with the muslin. Let's go take a look at that now.
Here's my muslin. I've got it on inside out. I don't have a waistband on, and I'm just looking at the fit here. I'm using an old sheet here for my muslin. I already knew that I was probably going to need to pin in this area right here. I tend to be more straight and not as curvy as nearly all pant and skirt patterns that I use. So I tried it on and then I pinned in the amount on either side. So what I'm looking at here is just general fit. The darts seem to be really good for my shape actually. The sizing looks good. I even like the length. I've got the hem turned up a little bit and just kind of tacked up. And I like that length. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I think I am ready to go ahead and cut this out of my actual fabric that I'm going to use. And of course on the actual fabric there will be a waistband. I believe it's a curved waistband. There will be some pockets and just other details that are not necessarily to put on your muslin. Here we go. So this is what I mean when I say that I'm going to take my pinning to my pattern here. So I've measured the distance from the seam line to where my pins were, and I did the same on my pattern. But when I was drawing the line on the pattern, I realized that the line would become much more fluid if I took it all the way down to where the hem would be turned up, just about all the way down to here. And this is where the hem turns up right here. It's almost straight. It's just a little bit curved, but that's my shape. It's definitely much more straight. So after I did that on both front and back pieces, and I made sure that it was the same by just laying one over the other and holding it up to light and tracing it. I have pocket pieces because this here is going to be cut out. There's going to be a pocket there. So I looked at my pieces. This one, the front. This is front. Okay. So this is going to go right here, and realize that this big pocket piece also needs the same shaping. So for the front and also the back, that's where it goes, I needed to have that same amount taken off of the pocket pieces. So that's something to keep in mind if you're making changes from your muslin to your pattern, to make sure that all the pieces affected get the same alteration change to them. So I'm so excited now. I'm going to put these on the black fabric and cut those pieces out.
We're going to pause and take a look at the black fabric that I'm going to use for my skirt. It's kind of a suede stretch woven. It's got a really good weight to it, and I think it's going to be perfect for a skirt. Something I forgot to show is the hem of this pattern. Because I've changed the sides and the kind of the angle of those side seams, it's going to change the way that that hem is going to be done. It has quite a deep hem, a couple inches, so I'm going to need to trim off the angle of that hem just as I'm doing here, and we're going to take some scissors to actually cut off that little piece. So the angle isn't going to be quite as deep as it was before I did my alteration.
Here's my pieces cut out, and here's my front skirt. And remember I talked about that pocket? I've got the pocket area cut out right there. It's optional. Since I wanted the pocket, I removed that portion. And all these pieces on this side over here all have interfacing. I've already interfaced them with black. You can't see it, but they're all interfaced. These pieces right here. Here I've got the pockets that go on the front. There's the back patch pockets. And now let's see how easy it is to put together. So what I've done first is put the pleats in the back of the skirt. Here's what the pattern looks like. And then here
is the back of my skirt on the wrong side. Here's the pleats pressed toward the center. Here's the right side. And now that that's done, I'm going to put the pockets on the front pieces. So here's one of the front pieces, and this piece is going to go here. I'll stitch here, I'll turn it to the wrong side, and then the pocket lining will go inside. So let's just go do that real quick so that we can get this done. So far, so good. We're just going to sew those pockets first. The curvature of where you'd put your hand in that front pocket. Of course, we want to clip those pocket curves so that they lay flat when we turn it right side out. The pattern has us understitching that pocket seam allowance, which I do recommend. It keeps that little seam from kind of rolling to the outside and showing, keeps it nice and crisp. Turning the pocket right side out on the ironing board here, and we can see how if I didn't clip the little curve there, it would not lay flat. The understitching keeps that inner part of the pocket, keeps that little seam allowance kind of rolled ever slightly to the inside so it doesn't poke out. Looking good so far. Now comes the pocket lining that we have to overlay over the top, because we only had one layer of the pocket before. This is the second layer that actually makes the pocket the pocket. So let's line up all those raw edges, and then we'll pin it and take it to the serger. Of course, it helps a bit if the pins are pinned in at the right direction. So if they're in the wrong direction, just switch them. You'll thank yourself for doing it. So I skipped over this part of the directions that's showing how to put in this button fly, because I knew that I wanted a zipper front. I didn't want, like right here, the buttonholes. I didn't want buttons up the front. I just wanted it nice and neat, kind of like a jeans front. So I just took the pieces and did what I knew I needed to do to put a zipper in. And incidentally, I know this is showing the pants front. I'm doing a skirt, but the application is the same if you're following the directions. So I just felt that I needed to point that out. Here's my zipper front. And it's going to be nice and flat on the front without buttons. That's just what I knew that I wanted before I started this. This is a portion that I had a little bit of trouble with. I've got my back pocket already constructed. All the edges are folded in, but I'm looking at the dots that were on the pattern. I've got them in little white marks here on my skirt, and that's supposed to align with the corners of the pocket. You see the problem here? And it says align pocket to the back at the markings and top stitch in place along all edges except the top. I realized that the markings are probably just suggestions, and I can figure out where I want my own pockets, but I do want a really specific guideline. So when I look at the pattern and where the markings are, and then when I take in that dart, which is already taken in, those markings are brought closer together. So see how wide my pocket is? And I'm not sure which corner to put at which marking. It's like the dots are too close together, so I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to line up these markings. So here's the pleat. If I take the pleat in and I line up the dots actually on the pattern itself, it still is the same as on my skirt. I did this just to make sure that I didn't have the markings in the wrong place. I believe it's an error in the pattern, so sorry, we've got to dock some points for that. Of course, it does say in the pattern that you can put the pockets where you want, and that's fine and great, but a new sewer or somebody who is really not sure where the pockets would look good. It would really be nice to have had it accurate. I know I would have appreciated it, so I figured out my own measurement and did my own thing. Didn't make sense to line up just one dot or the other dot. Either way, that pocket is way off center. I guess I'm just pretty hung up on this, thinking that something so simple could have been overlooked. Anyhow, the dots on the pattern kind of shot that pocket at a strange angle, where the pockets would have almost come together in the center back, the bottom of those pockets. That would have just been really weird. Once again, they won't get full points in this category. That was a mistake, definitely. That's the great thing about sewing your own clothes. We can put that pocket where we want it. So I constructed the waistband. I sewed the waistband right side together with my skirt, leaving the lining part free. I thought it was worth showing you that I didn't hand stitch this. I didn't do anything that was time consuming. Just with care and I think practice and some mileage under my belt, I pinned the lining of the waistband just so that it barely overlapped that seam line, and I pinned it from the front. And you'll see I'm stitching in a ditch on the front. So between the waistband and the skirt, I'm stitching right in between there. And I'm barely catching the waistband in the back. I pin it on, but I feel it. You watch me sew, I'm feeling it with my finger. I can barely feel it through all those layers so that I'm catching it in the needle. The inside of the waistband looks really good, actually better than I thought that it would. I think there's one area that had maybe 1/2 inch where I missed, so I just went back and did that over the top again. And pressing up the hem real quick, but I don't need to show you my sewing that up.
Here it is all done, and I absolutely love the way that this skirt looks in all ways but one. When I turn around to the back, can you see this little pooch right there? It's like it doesn't quite fit my body. And when I looked at some of the photos online of the test sewers who tested this pattern, most of them had tops covering this area. But there were a couple that I noticed where there was just a little bit of pooching in that area. But I think I'm going to fix it. So if I pin it in, I can lower the waistband a little bit. And when I lower the waistband a little bit, I will probably have to take in the darts in the back of the skirt, because the shaping of the skirt pieces go out like this. So the lower the waistband, the wider it needs to fit. And while I'm at it, the waistband's just a tiny bit loose, so I won't have any trouble taking that in at the same time. So I'll show you my pinning. My pinning is gonna look something like this. I have the most pinned up in the center back, and then it's going to taper off to nothing by the time it hits the side seams. And once I cut the lower piece off of the skirt, and I know where my waistband needs to go down to, then I'll compare my waistband to my skirt and see if my skirt needs to be taken in a little bit. I'm going to take in my waistband just ever so slightly, probably only about 1/2 inch or so. So I know that I will take these darts in. It's a very cute skirt. In all honesty, I already wore it one time with a top that covered this pooch, and I loved it. It's great with boots. I had tights and boots. It was really great. Let's pluck out that waistband and start the lowering process. Here's the shape of the piece that I took off in the center back, a little bit more right in the center, tapering to nothing at the sides, and the total is about 1/2 inch at the greatest portion right there. This is what it looks like now. I've taken in the sides of the waistband a total of 1/2 inch. I did it on the side seams. Also, I took in the appropriate amount on the waist of my skirt. Remember, I wanted my waistband just about 1/2 inch smaller, so I kind of took that into consideration as I cut the portion to dip this. So let's pin this on. It does equal the right circumference. So let's fast forward through this part.
Though I am pinning this waistband on, like I'm sandwiching it over the top of my skirt, I am actually just checking to make sure the circumference is right. But I did go back and I did the right side of my waistband to the right side of my skirt, and then I folded the lining to the back, and then I stitched in the ditch like I originally did.
Now to stitch this on.
So now let's get to the scoring of this pattern. The first category that I'm going to score is the pattern price. I think that the price points for what you pay, the pattern right now is $12.50, but you not only get the skirt, but you also get pants. It's actually supposed to be an exposed button fly. I didn't want the buttons. I wanted a nice flat front, so I put a zipper in instead. That's not in the instructions, but I think that for $12.50 to get a basic pattern of some pants and skirt is a reasonable price. I'm scoring that a 10. I think that a 10 out of 10 for the value is as good as it gets. Next category is ease and clarity of instructions. Now, I've already mentioned that there was a problem with the markings for the pocket placement. There's also something that is probably more, I'm being really picky about this, it's probably my preference. There's a portion of one of the pockets on one of the sides that you're supposed to cut away to make room for the fly overlap that comes inside. And so it just tells you in the instructions to cut off something like 1.5 inches. I can see how that would be easily overlooked by somebody who didn't understand what was going on or didn't really look closely at the photos. The photo is accurate, but I think it should be marked on the pattern piece. The pattern piece is exactly the same for the left and right side. It might have been beneficial for the pattern piece to have been marked for left side, you know, cut away here, but I can see how they might not have done that because the sewer would have to know, okay, so which side of the pocket is the pocket lining, the pocket bag, or the pocket or the pocket bag. Confusing, I understand that, but for me it would have been beneficial. Because I felt that it was pretty significant that the pocket markings were way off, I did take a point away from there. So in the ease and clarity of instructions, I'm going to give a 9. The next category is difficulty in assembly. I think this was a super easy pattern. It was not difficult, at least not the skirt. Granted, I didn't make the pants and I didn't do the button fly. So if you're not really happy with making buttonholes and you want the buttonhole look, that might be a little bit of a struggle for you. But like I said, for me, I put in a zipper fly, I knew how to do that, and I just made the skirt. There's no legs, there's nothing else going on there. It was super easy, so I give that a 10. It gets the highest point possible in that category. Next category, fit out of the box. As you saw in my muslin, it did not quite fit out of the box. Now this is very subjective to my figure and from my point of view. I knew already in advance that the sides would have to come in right along my thigh area because I'm more straight in that area. Most people are more curvy. I knew that, I anticipated that, but yet I went ahead and sewed the muslin together as is and then showed you where I pin it in. The other fit issue didn't really come into play till after I made the final garment and I put that waistband on and I saw that little pooch in the back. I did do some searching online to see other pattern reviewers that I was trying to see if I could catch a glimpse of the same problem in the back. Most of the pattern reviewers are affiliates of this brand, meaning that they get a commission if you purchase from their link. So they're biased, though they might be really good at sewing and they might come out with a really good product. Almost all of them had their shirts covering that area. There was a tiny glimpse of one that I got, and I see that same little thing going on there. I did see another reviewer who is not an affiliate, and she had more issues going on. She said that her skirt was too big for the waistband, and I'm thinking that maybe she picked the wrong size or she did something wrong because she decided to put a pleat in the back to take up the extra. Well, my waistband and my skirt body fit exactly. They were perfect. One was not bigger than the other. I decided myself to take them both in. This reviewer decided, I don't know why she didn't just take it in at the side, seems to take in that extra amount, as well as I see that little pucker there. So yeah, I think that it's probably more common of a problem than people are either admitting or they are not noticing it somehow. So I think that's a drafting issue, that they could probably eliminate that problem for most people by kind of scooping out the back waist a little bit. Next category, ease in making fitting adjustments and how many adjustments I needed to make. I needed to make 2 adjustments. One was to the sides, and the other was to the little pooch under the waistband, as you already know. So I took one off for each of those. So the ease in making adjustments, though it wasn't hard to do, I did have to make 2 different fitting adjustments. That takes 2 points off. So the grand total that this pattern gets is 45, which is probably pretty good, and I was being picky. So 45 out of 50, I say this pattern that you should give it a try, but keep your eyes open for the problems that I had, because you might have the same kind of problems, especially if you have a figure that's a little bit like mine. So now that I've got So Darn Fun, score of 45, here is what I came up with on how to put my skirt together with an outfit. Here we are. I love this look. Here's my skirt, my tablecloth top that I got in Denmark, my boots. The back of my skirt lays much better, much flatter. Got my back pockets spaced nicely. I love these front pockets. I'm a pocket girl. Give me pockets. I love the way that this fits. I like the way I tapered it in. I like the way I fixed the back waistband. I know it's hard to see details on black. You'll have to trust me. I think it's a simple pattern. I would encourage you to go for it. Doesn't have to get a 50 out of 50 to be a good pattern to use. As always, thank you for joining me on So Darn Fun. Leave a comment if you would give this a try. I encourage you to keep on sewing. Have an awesome day.